guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jasmine and I'm going to be doing my 2-month postpartum update. This video might be hella long, not even gonna lie. The only downfall is I wrote all my notes on my phone and I'm using my phone to record right now. Hopefully I can remember stuff off the top of my head, which is usually really hard for me to do, but I'm going to try and start from the very beginning because I feel like it's been such a long time since my last update video. So I feel like so much has kind of happened. So I think I will start with the baby first. So he had his 2-month checkup a couple days ago and he weighs 11.9 pounds. So he's almost 12 pounds now. We are still breastfeeding, which is awesome. So the goal is still 6 months for breastfeeding. So we're now 2 months down, which is really good. So that's exciting for me, especially because I couldn't breastfeed with my first pregnancy. His sleep is still pretty rough. There were a couple days, especially more towards like the first 2 to 3 weeks, he gave me at least 2 to 3 nights of like consistent sleeping through the night, if you will, because it wasn't really sleeping through the night, but it was about 4 to 5 hours of sleep in the middle of the night instead of waking up every 2 hours, 2.5 hours to feed, which was amazing because whenever he would wake up after 4 hours, I would feel more refreshed and I wouldn't feel like I just got hit by a truck, you know, that like really tired feeling. But since then, he actually has stopped, which is why it feels so long. I don't know. It just feels like, I feel like he's already 3 months old, basically. I feel like I just skipped the whole 2nd month stage and he's 3 months old and so much time has passed from my last update, but really not that much time has passed. And so right now, he is now giving me 2 hours to 2.5 hours. He's waking up every night. He is still in 0 to 3 month clothes, but he does fit in 3 month clothes. His belly is starting to get bigger, so the pants that we have, I just realized that my sports bra was out this whole time. So his belly is starting to get bigger. So right now the pants that we have, they are between 0 to 3 months and 3 months size. So it's just weird because he does fit in all of his pants perfectly. Obviously, his legs are still a little short, so like the shorts that we have for him look kind of awkward on him just because of his size right now. But with his belly getting bigger, I'm noticing that the waistbands on 0 to 3 months and 3 month clothes are really tight. And to me, I just don't like putting babies in like really, really tight pants because I feel like it's uncomfortable. Like from a personal experience, I don't like wearing tight pants around my waistband. So I feel like for a baby, they can't really express that discomfort. They don't understand the discomfort. But it's like if I see marks around his waist from his pants, that's obviously way too tight. And I feel like he was just uncomfortable all day long. So pretty soon he's going to need a whole new set of pants because I mean it's the same with the onesies and the t-shirts. Like not all brands make their pant sizes the same, even though they're all the same size on the tag. So his eyes are now green. I really, really hope that they're green, that they stay green and that they don't change. So he's also grown a lot in his strength. He's definitely a lot stronger. Now, I did mention that from day one, he was always like trying to like wobble his head and like hold it up on his own and stuff. But now he's getting a lot more control over his head. He still wobbles and stuff because, you know, he's only 2 months old. So obviously his neck is still weak, but he's definitely a lot stronger than he was last month. We do tummy time, not often, but I at least try to do tummy time at least once a day with him, whether that's just him sitting on my chest or if it's him like on his little play mat on the floor. So like we do try tummy time. He's really good at tummy time. He stays for about, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes. I'm trying to like remember it all, but a lot did happen. So he went to the beach for the first time when he was like a month and a half. And it was kind of like the perfect beach day. It was really windy, but not like overly windy to where sand was getting everywhere. It was kind of just like that perfect cool breeze to where we could sit under the tent comfortably. Nobody was sweating under the tent. He didn't sweat at all. And he, of course, didn't go into the water because I don't want to put him in the ocean just yet because I feel like he's really small. So like he stayed under the tent with us and he was perfectly fine. He didn't get cranky. He ate and napped just like normal as if you would if you were home. So we got really, really lucky that day, and that was like a perfect beach day. But then, sadly, a couple days later, he did get sick. I wouldn't say it was sickness from the beach. I mean, it could have been from being like exposed to like the wind or anything, but he did get sick. And around that same time, his sister was also sick, and she was getting over a really, really thick cough. And she's still learning about personal space and how to cover her mouth when she coughs every time. So there was actually a lot of times where she would cough around him without covering her mouth, cough in his face, cough in my face, which I think that's primarily where he got it from. And I'm not gonna lie, when he first got sick, I didn't think anything of it, because to me, he was still eating fine, he was still peeing and pooping, he was still sleeping like normal. He wasn't overly sleeping, missing feedings, and so he also didn't have a fever. So like he just had a cough, and he sounded a little congested, which of course I didn't like hearing that, but I didn't think it was anything very serious. And then he started to progress, and there was one day where he just started coughing and coughing and coughing, and it was kind of to the point where it was like, okay, like stop coughing, because it was making it hard for him to breathe. And then he was like, you could hear him wheezing, and he was having a hard time taking a deep breath in. And so I'm not even gonna lie here either, I didn't think it was necessary to take him to the hospital, because he did eventually calm himself down after he coughed and got that all out and everything. But we did end up going to the hospital, and I'm glad that we did go to the hospital, because we actually learned that he tested positive for RSV. He also tested positive for coronavirus. They said it was the old coronavirus, but not COVID-19. So the COVID virus that's going on right now is not what he caught. To be honest, I have no idea what that means, but that's what all the doctors said in the hospital, his pediatrician. So I'm just going with what they told me, and how it wasn't like actual COVID-19. So yes, he did have RSV. I'll insert a clip of him breathing that I caught, which for some reason I was trying to find like normal breathing on YouTube for infants and like RSV chest movements, and I just couldn't find anything I thought was helpful. Like there was a lot of videos explaining it, but there wasn't any videos really showing it. So it was kind of hard for me to tell, like, okay, is this normal of him to breathe like this? Is it not normal? And so as you see in the clip, like you could see where he's sucking in just a little bit harder, and you can see his ribs a little bit, which when I first saw that, I'm gonna be honest, I thought it was normal. I was like, oh, I've seen him do that before. I didn't think anything of it. Clearly was not normal. But by the time we went to the hospital, he was already on like day 3 or 4 of having RSV. And according to the doctor in the hospital, usually day 4 and 5 are the worst days of having RSV. When we went to the hospital, his oxygen level was at 100%. He had no fever. It wasn't necessarily an emergency. The doctors did not handle it as if it were an emergency, because of the fact that he was at 100% oxygen level, no fever or anything. It was just the coughing and then the positive test result. So we started off in the local hospital, but they don't have a pediatric unit. So then they transferred us over to a different hospital within the same county that did have a pediatric unit. And there, we were there for maybe like an hour and a half. They monitored him. His oxygen level was really high, or was at 100%. And the worst part of that visit was that they had to flush his nose with saline. So what they did was they laid him on his back. They held his arms up over his head. It was two nurses. So one nurse was holding his arms up over his head. The other nurse was actually doing the saline in the suction. And so in the hospital, they put the saline in both nostrils at one time while he was on his back, and like you could hear it gurgling in the back of his throat. And let me tell you, it was the hardest thing to sit through, because he was just like choking for air. And like, I don't think any parent wants to hear their baby choking for air, even though like they're being treated by nurses who should know what they're doing. It's hard to sit through, and like it was tough. After they squirted his nostrils with saline, they took this like suction, which is like a straw, and so the straw like suctioned out his nose. They did it in each nostril, they did it in the back of his throat, and then they did it again. But it did help. I will say that. So then he had his follow-up appointment after the hospital visit. That follow-up appointment was terrifying. It was just a bad appointment. And the reason why it was a bad appointment is because the equipment that they have at that facility, it's like they don't have infant, newborn equipment to monitor their oxygen level that they put on their foot. So they have the little clip thing that's supposed to go on their toe, but of course his toe is so small, and right now he's used to just like curling his feet, that they had such a hard time getting it onto his foot. So the first time they did it, it was showing under 95%, which is low. So then they went and like rushed the doctor in, and the doctor was like, okay, well, let me hear him. So like he was listening to his chest, and he was like, okay, well, that honestly can't be right. So they tried it again. Okay, we had like probably 4 nurses in there trying to get this thing on each toe. Okay, like 2 on one foot, the other 2 on the other foot, just trying to get this machine on his foot so that way they could read his oxygen level. And that whole time they were like, it kind of felt like they were panicking, but not really panicking. They were just like in a rush to get this on his foot. And all I could hear the doctor saying was, let's make sure this, because we might have to make the call. Basically by saying like to make the call, he was saying that they might need to make the call to the hospital for him to go back and be seen, which is scary, you know? Like, he just got discharged from the hospital the night before. To then do a follow-up appointment for them to send us back to the hospital was terrifying, especially because they couldn't get that thing to read properly. So then they finally figured it out, and it finally read the way that it was supposed to read, and it was at 100% oxygen level. Because at the same time, he was screaming and he was crying. So like, I'm pretty sure he couldn't really catch his breath that whole time. He couldn't really relax. He was very, very, very upset being handled by all those nurses. And honestly, I was upset too, just watching them struggle to get that thing on his foot. I was like, okay, figure it out, you know? Then they did another flush of his nose, which was awful. I feel like at his pediatrician, they did a worse job than at the hospital. Now at the hospital, granted, they had like an actual suction machine that they just had to stick the little straw in his nose, and it did the work for them. Here at his doctor's office, they only had like the, I don't know what it's called, the little suction ball that they give you in the hospital. So that's all they had. They didn't have like a fancy machine that could do like a really proper suck. Here they have him propped up at an angle on the little bed, and one nurse is holding his head and everything in his body, and the other nurse is sticking saline. And this one, they had like huge syringes of saline. Obviously they didn't put the whole thing in his nose, but they did little by little, and so they did it one nostril at a time. That one was a lot worse because he was crying a lot harder, and it was way slower for them to actually take the mucus out. It did help him, but it was awful. He was screaming, he couldn't catch his breath, his face was getting red. It was just awful. Like, I really wanted to be like, okay, let go of my child and let me calm him down. I know exactly what I need to do to calm him down. Let him go and leave the room, you know? But of course, I didn't say that because I wanted them to finish what they were supposed to do and then get out of the room. But I was able to calm him down. Then they came back and checked his oxygen level again while he was calm, and it was at 100% again. So yeah, that was our little experience with RSV. Now, they did mention that he was going to have a cough for about a month. I don't think that he has a cough anymore. I haven't heard him cough, really. Like, he's coughed once or twice like throughout the day, but really he doesn't have like that bad cough anymore, and I'm so like super grateful for it, because having that like thick cough is awful, especially because with him you could just hear it. Like, if it sounded like it was in the back of his throat, honestly, and all I wanted to do was take like a little suction cup and just suction the mucus from the back of his throat, but obviously I can't do that without hurting him. Basically, we just had to keep doing saline over and over and flush it out ourselves, and it did work. He's doing a lot better, doesn't have a cough anymore. His breathing is back to normal. You can see it in his chest that he's, you know, breathing the way that he should be. Now, besides having RSV, which he's doing better from now, he had a diaper rash. Like, Julie never really had a diaper rash like this, but he had a diaper rash, and about 3 weeks ago he formed like this bump. Like, it was kind of like, it looked almost like an ingrown hair, but of course he's not growing hair on his butt, but that's what it looked like. So it was a bump like that on his butt, like right, like in his crack, basically, right where the poop would come. We went to his doctor's office and we checked that out. By the time we went to his doctor's office though, it had already started removing pus from it. So it was flat when we got there. It wasn't a bump and it wasn't hard. So she didn't have any concern about the bump. But then at his 2-month checkup, which was just a couple days ago, obviously the marking is still there. He's still, not every day, but like some days I noticed that it's releasing pus. So I brought that back up to her attention a couple days ago at his appointment. She prescribed both a diaper rash cream and then also a cream that's supposed to go on the actual infected area. So hopefully that little bump, flat bump, whatever it is, goes away. Like, I'm telling you, this boy has been to the doctor more times than I've ever taken his sister to the doctor. And he's only 2 months old. Like, I swear, Julie never went to the doctor this much. I think that's pretty much it off the top of my head. That was like really, really important. That was different from his 1 month. Now going on to the topic of me and how I'm doing postpartum. So I will insert like a little short video or clip or picture, whatever it is, of what my body looks like currently at 2 months. So I'll just go ahead and start off with that topic. Actually, you know what? I'm going to put him down first because I'm just a little uncomfortable. So for my 6-week checkup, I did get approved to go back to work. Now I'm not working. I am actually on a 10-week child bonding leave, which is an extended leave from my maternity leave. So maternity leave was 6 weeks and now I'm on an additional 10 weeks. I've already done 3 weeks of it, so I should be going back to work July 12th, which I'm really excited that I have this extended leave because he'll be 3.5 months or 4 months, something like that, by the time I go back to work. But my job is going back to the office. They're doing like a 50-50, 50% in the office, 50% working from home. I've been working from home for over a year now, and so now they're starting the process to go back to the office since the vaccine is out and everything. So I guess that's exciting, but also like everybody's been so used to working from home. I know I've been used to working from home, so it's like I'm dreading that day. Anyways, but my intention is to stay working from home so that way I don't have to put him in daycare for the first year of his life, which is what we did with Julie. Julie did not go to daycare until she was maybe like 1.5, almost 2 years old. So I'm gonna try and talk a little bit faster. I have my little belly band on here. I am not consistent with it still. I wish I was honestly more consistent with it during the first month postpartum because I feel like it would have made a bigger difference if I was consistent with it. I just didn't stick with it because it just makes me so uncomfortable and I just don't like feeling restricted. But I'm just not happy with my body. I literally hate my body. Like in the beginning, like first month, I didn't dislike my body as much as I dislike my body right now. It felt like I was kind of had like this nonchalant look or a nonchalant feeling towards my body. It was like, it's not really what I want it to look like, but it is what it is type of deal. And now I look at myself and I'm like, damn, I don't like this. And the reason is because now with 2 months postpartum, I just don't have any clothes anymore that properly fit my body to where I feel comfortable and I look comfortable. And I am 112 pounds. So I went up to 125 before I gave birth. I don't know how much I lost after he was born because I didn't get on the scale then. But at 6 weeks, I was weighing 112 pounds. So I did lose a lot of weight, but I didn't go back down to like my pre-pregnancy weight, which was 109, which is totally fine because like the number on the scale does not bother me. I don't care what the number says, but it's the way that my body looks in the mirror. That's what really, really bothers me. I didn't have all this extra loose skin. I didn't have like this kind of like dome look to my belly, especially because I keep getting the comments like, oh, you'll lose the weight, don't worry about it, you lost it really fast with Julie. And what people don't seem to like register in their mind is, and like for those who are my family that are watching this, like this is no shade or hate or anything, but like what they don't seem to understand is that when I was pregnant with Julie, I was in a very bad mental state. I was not happy with my life, and I wasn't happy with where I lived. I felt in a way unsafe where I lived. There was no like abuse or anything, but I just wasn't comfortable where I lived. Just to put like a little example out there, like I felt scared to go out to the kitchen to make myself food at a certain hour because I didn't want to upset the owner of the house. I've had to constantly walk on eggshells after I gave birth to Julie, and I didn't eat properly. I wasn't taking care of myself the way that I should have taken care of myself. I wasn't breastfeeding, so it's not like people could say, oh, you breastfed, so you lost weight by breastfeeding. No, I lost weight because I didn't eat. I didn't eat a single thing. I would be starving to the point where I would have a headache and I would feel really, really sick and cranky, and I still wouldn't eat because at that point, I didn't know what to eat. I didn't know what I wanted. Everything made me sick. So like, I lost a lot of weight because I starved myself, basically. I just didn't eat. And people just don't seem to recognize that. Like, I lost a lot of weight because of really, really unhealthy living, and I don't want to do that again. So this time around, I'm a lot healthier mentally, physically. I'm not like a healthy eater, but I do eat when I'm hungry, and I take care of myself when I feel like I need a break. So I'm like in a very, very, very different and a very good mental state this time around with my second pregnancy. So it's very much a better lifestyle that I'm living. So because I'm eating the way that I should be eating sometimes, because sometimes I do skip meals, but like I'm eating more than what I did previously, it's a lot slower for me to actually shed this like baby weight, because it's not the weight, it's just I just want my belly to go flat again. And so hearing that comment like, oh, don't worry, like you'll lose it fast. No, like I don't think I will lose it fast. And I kind of hate that comment because it makes me feel discouraged, like, oh, I'm gonna lose it fast, so now I better lose it fast because that's what these people are telling me is gonna happen, So it's like, I hate that comment. I don't hate the people that tell me that comment, but I just hate that comment, and I kind of just like, yeah, whatever, try to brush it off. I've also gotten comments about, oh, hopefully you lose the weight because you look better, like that. Like, what? That comment is discouraging as hell. So anyways, I'm still feeling pretty overwhelmed because honestly, PJ sleeps a lot. He's on paternity leave right now, so he's home with me. So we both go back to work in July, and so he's done so much sleeping, and it's frustrating because some mornings we keep Julie home from school, and it's hard being exhausted from the night before and then having to like watch two kids at the same time. So the last thing that I'm going to talk about, I'm not pumping anymore when it comes to breastfeeding. I stopped pumping probably at 1 month because it was just stressful in its own way. It was stressful in a way that it felt like by the pump I was only getting 1 ounce combined from both boobs, okay? Only 1 ounce from both boobs, and that was really discouraging. It was like, dang, I went from being able to pump at least 3 ounces in one and have 1.5 ounce in another at the same time to now only being able to produce 1 ounce from both in 30 minutes. Like, that was really discouraging because I knew when he was actually on the boob that he was getting what he needed, but whenever I would try to pump, I just wasn't making what I felt like I needed to make. And so it put like this kind of doubt in my head, like I either need to stop pumping or I'm starting to lose my milk. So I just stopped pumping completely. So now we are solely just on the boob every 2 hours or 3 hours. So it's definitely a toll on my body. I definitely can't wait to have my body back to me because it doesn't feel like my body is mine anymore. I definitely have to cater to him whenever he needs it, which is why I want to work from home so bad, because I don't want him to go to daycare and then we have to stop before we reach our goal. Also with breastfeeding, my milk has obviously come in the way that it should. My boobs have gotten used to the way that he latches. Now the way that he latches is not the right way to latch. So I've noticed that he still has a shallow latch at times. I've just gotten used to the feeling of it, so it no longer hurts. Now, there are some moments like in the middle of the night when I'm dead tired, or if he's been on for longer than 15 minutes where I start to get uncomfortable, but I've honestly gotten used to it. I have way more confidence in breastfeeding and breastfeeding in public than I ever thought I would. Now, granted, when I breastfeed in public, I always cover myself because that's what makes me feel comfortable, but I would never shame anybody for breastfeeding without covering up, because like I understand the logic of that as well. But thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in my next video.